We just got our garden plowed a couple of days ago. The soil looked really good. We don't have as much flat land as I wish we had, but I think this is going to be okay. We're going to be planting corn this year, of course, and this is one of our what we call a throwaway cat. He came in here, starved half to death, and hello, Bob. His name's Mr. Bob, and he's a very energetic young man. He loves this fresh dirt in the garden. But this is our plans this year. We're gonna have sections for our corn, and we're gonna plant some potatoes. Of course, we're gonna have squash and zucchini, peppers, and things of that nature, cucumbers, things that we'll be able to can. So, but the one thing I did want to mention is that we are going to be planting corn this year. In the past, our garden was only about half this size, and we only planted things that were very short, I guess, consumed really fast, stuff like tomatoes and cucumbers and things like that. We haven't been canning any, and we hadn't planted any corn. But this year we're going to be planting corn. We got in some seeds. We're going to plant corn, and we're going to preserve the seeds. We've preserved some tomato seed from another source this year, and we're going to try some of those, plus some of the seeds that we've been able to pick up from packets. So we're going to kind of see how that does, and we'll hopefully keep you guys updated throughout this coming year as to how the garden does. So let's get on into the video about how corn affects us. All right, let's talk about corn. So, there's been so much going on this year in 2020 that it's been hard to keep up with it all. We've seen so many things change, and the way we live change, that it's just been like a blur to me from the time this all started to where we're at right now. And I ran across an article that really got my attention, and in all the stuff we've talked about with prepping and getting ready for times that may be more difficult than they are right now, and I still think that we're going to see a more difficult 2021 than 2020 was. So I would encourage you to continue prepping. But this article deals with corn, and I will give you a link to the article in the description below, so you can go read the whole article, because I'm just going to kind of go over it briefly and not really go into depth on it. They have more information. But back in early summer, there was a Derecho, I think how they pronounce it, came through. A very strong storm with winds of up to 100 miles an hour that went through the southwest, Iowa to be precise. And this storm really caused a lot of devastation across Iowa. Now, Iowa is one of the biggest corn producing states in the United States. They produce about 43% of corn crops for the whole nation. So that's really huge. That's huge. And there was up to about 10 million acres of corn crops that were affected and or destroyed in those storms. Now, these storms came through, and they just broke the corn stalk right off at the top of the ground, just broke them right over and laid them right down. And when you break a plant off like that, it just dies out. So they lost those crops. A huge portion of those crops were lost. Iowa has about 87,000 farmers if you look it up. And that's a lot of farmers. And they have some of the finest farmers in our country. And, you know, farmers are wonderful people. They work hard. They, you know, when you think about a farmer, they sell everything wholesale. And they buy everything retail. And then they work themselves to death to make production. You know, it just hardworking people, farmers that produce these kind of crops and this amount of stuff. They work tirelessly. When the season is in, it's nonstop. So it's, you know, it's no wonder that Iowa is the #1 corn producing state in the union. With all the fertile land it has out there, it's a large state, and the ground out there is just perfect for raising corn. And actually, Iowa, if you look at the state of Iowa produces more corn, that one state, than many entire countries by themselves. So that says a whole lot. There's a lot of corn produced in Iowa. Now, the corn that comes from Iowa is not the sweet corn like you buy at the grocery store. And this is why it's so important to understand how this destruction of all this corn can affect our food this coming year. Because sweet corn is just sweet corn. You just buy it on the cob and you boil it and eat it, or you'll cut it off and fry it, and you know, we do that all the time. That's what we grow here, sweet corn. Now, field corn is what Iowa grows for the most part. There's about 99% of the crops that's grown there is field corn. And now that's what we grew along with sweet corn when I was a young man growing up and a child. My father always had a portion of the garden that he grew field corn in. And that field corn was grown for the sole purpose of feeding our hogs, fattening them in the fall, and feeding our chickens. That was all it was grown for, was for feed. And that's one of the big things that field corn is used for, is feed for livestock. So we need to keep that in mind. There is just literally tons of things that is made from corn products. Things that we would never think of if we do a little research. It's just unreal how much stuff is made from corn. And we don't export or import our corn on a huge amount because we produce it. And Iowa is one of the leading producers of our corn. So this is definitely going to have an impact on us here in the United States. Now, I don't see a corn shortage right now. When I go to the store, there still seems to be plenty of corn, you know, in the canned corn, and at the grocery I always see corn on the cob and stuff like that, and it doesn't seem to be affecting anything right now because this is the sweet corn that we buy. See, that you don't use that to make food products and other things with. It's the field corn that's used for that. And this is what Iowa produces. This was what was destroyed. So what and how is that going to affect us? Well, right now it's not. Next year, more than likely, it will. Because just like I mentioned with the crops that we grow this year is going to be the food we eat next year. Same way with the cattle and the beef and the hogs and all that stuff. It takes time for this stuff to mature. So how's that going to affect us? Let's look at some numbers right here. The first thing we need to understand is that most of the things made from corn is made for human consumption or used in products that is manufactured for human consumption. Livestock first. Let's look at it. Livestock, ethanol, and many manufactured goods are made by and through the growing of field corn. 39% of Iowa's corn will produce 30% of American ethanol. 30% of it just comes from the one state, Iowa. their corn produces 30% of the ethanol in the United States. Do you have stuff that uses ethanol? You might want to stock up on it a little bit before next year. That's not a long way off. 21% of their corn feeds the livestock in the United States. Can you imagine that? 21% of the field corn in the United States comes from one state, Iowa. How's that going to affect livestock production next year? If farmers don't have enough feed to feed their livestock, they can't raise more livestock. They'll have to cut back on their production. They'll have to cut back on how many livestock they raise. That's going to cut back on meat production. That's going to raise the price of meat. Yeah, something to think about. And I'm not talking about just meat out of the meat section of the deli where you go in and buy your ground hamburger meat and your pork chops and your things like that. I'm talking about canned meats as well. Anything like that people use that they feed corn to, whether it be cattle, hogs, chickens, whatever it might be. And all of those eat corn product in their food. And 12% of it goes into food production, wet meal, what they call wet meal processing for foods. So that's a huge amount also. And then it leaves 9% of it to be exported, that we send to other countries. Now, that's something that you would think that with the things that have happened in the United States this year that our government would cut back on, and they would not want to export any more corn than is absolutely necessary. And how that's going to happen, I don't know, or if that's going to affect how the government looks at this, I have no idea. I have no clue. Wouldn't even venture to guess, because they're so unpredictable. Nobody knows what they're going to do. So, as with many crops, a shortage this year is going to affect our next year's food consumption. Doesn't matter whether it's corn or whether it's soy. And that's another thing that Iowa grows is a ton of soy. And that soy was affected also. So keep that in mind. Soy is used in a lot of products. So we've got 18 other corn states, you might say, corn growing states besides Iowa. They don't hardly grow as much as Iowa, but they still produce a lot of corn, a lot of field corn. And all of these states the last couple of years have suffered, including Iowa. They have suffered in the amount of corn they've been able to produce because of the weather patterns. The spring weather has not been cooperative enough for them to get their corn in early as they want to, and it's forced them to plant their corn out later each year for the last couple of years, and that's made for smaller crops. It's just created less production of corn. So that will affect things also. They're just things we need to keep in mind here. If we use a lot of these things, and I'm going to go over a couple of them right here, some of the things that are made from corn. And if these are things that are important to you, then you might want to consider stocking up on some of them. It's just crazy how much stuff's made from corn. You know, and as I said, when the corn production is affected like this, the feed corn, the field corn, there's less corn to feed the livestock. It creates lower production of livestock. Things that contain corn or corn syrup that you see on the grocery shelf, you're going to find less and less of it. Ethanol, anything that contains ethanol, you're going to see less and less of it. And of course, alcoholic beverages are made from corn. That's called corn whiskey, corn liquor. You know, for years, that's what they used to make alcohol is corn. So, corn, buddy, it never dawned on me how important corn is in our food processing here in the United States. So what are some of the items that we should stock up on before this shortage rolls out? The first thing is meat, of course. I just mentioned that if you have a corn shortage of field corn, then your meat production is going to fall short because there's not going to be enough corn to feed the livestock. So You might want to try to, get you some meat canned back. I know a lot of people can meat. You might want to buy up some more canned meat extra above what you thought you might need, because it may come in short supply this coming year. Of course, popcorn is made from corn product. If you planned on prepping your pantry with some popcorn, might be a good time to do it right now. And of course, any corn you can find, whether it be sweet corn, canned corn, whatever it might be, you might want to put that back, because like I said, only 1% of Iowa's corn is considered sweet corn, but still yet, there was, tons of that damaged, and other farms were affected as well that do grow sweet corn. Shampoo and conditioner use citric acid, and citric acid is derived from corn. So for your hygiene products, you might want to put some of that back, a couple extra bottles or whatever of that. Yogurt. Now this is something, I don't know if you can store it long term or not, but yogurt uses high fructose corn syrup in it. Again, that's something, comes right out of corn. And diapers use cornstarch as the absorbing factor in it. Cornbread, which is a no-brainer, comes from cornmeal. Cornmeal comes from corn, ground field corn, just like it comes from Iowa. Even your Windex has an ingredient in it. It has, the cleaner uses 5 different ingredients that are derived from corn. And I have a web site, backroadsliving.com, and we have a how-to post on there to make your own window cleaner. You don't have to buy Windex. You can make your own window cleaner that's just as good, and I'll put a link to that in the description box below on how to make your own window cleaner, among other cleaners. You can make a lot of cleaners. Here's another no-brainer: corn flakes, sweetened or unsweetened. Corn flakes, cereal. Paper and cardboard use cornstarch. Crayons and chalk use cornstarch. Pet food, even your pet food, is made with some kind of corn as an ingredient. Deodorant, the cornstarch and deodorant is the absorption part of deodorant. Hand sanitizer, it contains ethanol. Ethanol is made from corn. Anything that contains ethanol is going to be, and it's not bad enough that they're already short on all this stuff. It's been in short supply all year ever since this thing took place in the spring. The shelves in our Walmart's been out of that stuff forever, which we don't use a lot of it anyway. I rarely use any of that, but we just noticed that it's been gone. It says toothpaste here uses an ingredient called sorbitol, and it's derived from corn. Of course, cornstarch comes directly right from corn, and there's more cereals besides cornflakes that use corn products and cornstarch in them. A lot of snack foods use cornstarch. Salad dressings. There's some peanut butters that have cornstarch in them, that sugars that come from cornstarch. Grits, they come from corn. Cornstarch. Taco shells are made from corn. They're just all kinds of stuff that this could affect. And of course, the last thing, alcohol, as I said earlier, is made from corn. So all these things, man, it's just amazing how much stuff is made from corn, or has corn in it, or has cornstarch, or the sweeteners are derived from cornstarch, or something from the corn. And these are just a few things that you might want to think about. If there's things on this list that you feel like is a necessity for you, or things that you just don't want to have to do without, you might want to consider stocking up some extra on that, and just keep your ears open. Let us know what you hear. If you hear things going on that you think we need to talk about, let us know. do our best to research it and try to find it out for you. And I'll also leave a link to the website where I got this information from in the description box below, so you can go read that article yourself. So with that being said, we want to say thank you again for watching our videos. If you aren't a subscriber, we would ask that you do subscribe, that you ring the bell icon so you'll be notified of our new videos as we post them, that you give us a like, thumbs up, and until the next time, everybody have a great day.